Thanks so much for joining me on the Marketplace. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. Let's start from South Africa, where Energy Minister John Peter Mewu has given assurance government would be fair in determining which oil companies are granted exploration rights for the 6 oil blocks in the Western Basin. Addressing a well-patronized roadshow in Cape Town, South Africa, he said government was ready to do business with any oil company, irrespective of their location. Darokwa has more from the launch of the first Ghana international licensing round in South Africa.
The Ghanaian delegation did not know what to expect, but before the bidding round could start, they were overwhelmed by the number of investors who swarmed the auditorium.
But now let's look at why Ghana. Since we came here, there are a number of countries that are doing bidding round. So, but why wouldn't you come to Ghana? Why should you go there and not Ghana? And this is very important for us. That the first thing is that we have a proven petroleum system. We have 25 discoveries since Jubilee. Out of these, the significant thing to mention here is that out of these discoveries, there are a number of discoveries people made and discard. But out of these discoveries, we've been able to move about 2/3 of these into the appraisal development and even to the production phase.
In his address, Energy Minister John Peter Mewu said the launch of the exploration rights was aimed towards making Ghana a leading producer of oil and gas. He however made clear the country would not renege on its local content policy.
The companies that will win the tenders to exploit for oil and gas in Ghana will quickly begin to align themselves with some of our strategic goals in building the capacities of our country. I also like to remind you that it is legally mandatory, and I repeat, it is legally mandatory to partner with indigenous Ghanaian companies to undertake petroleum activity in our country. It is therefore important to study our local content regulations and standards far in advance to ensure our alignment with our local requirements.
Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, the regulator of the upstream sector, Egbert Fabio Jr., touted Ghana's stable democracy and business-friendly environment.
We also, through our regulatory framework, ensure that there is a conducive socio-political environment that provides limitless upstream opportunities in a dynamic and steadily advancing economy. And of course, Ghana continues to be the most attractive destination for upstream investments in West Africa. This is an unassailable fact.
International oil companies with interest are expected to make submissions by end of November, whilst local companies will be pre-qualified for participation in December 2018. Darokwa, Cape Town, South Africa.
To other stories now, Ghana is said to have a problem because about 70% of fabric on the Ghanaian market with indigenous designs are designed outside the country. This is therefore apt to say that majority of made in Ghana fabrics are made in China or elsewhere. But government once again seeks to end this trend with the introduction of the textile tax stamp. In the following report, Sheila Tamaklo has been finding out if the directive will achieve its goals.
Beautiful patterned Ghanaian prints, elegantly designed. Many Ghanaians take pride in wearing what is referred to as African wear because of aesthetic, cultural heritage reasons, and also to boost the business of local textile companies. This is certainly patriotic, but however, there is a problem. About 70% of fabric in the Ghanaian markets with indigenous designs are designed outside the country. This is according to the Ghana Revenue Authority. It is therefore apt to say majority in made in Ghana fabrics are made in China.
Okay, so this is Owatridia, this is Subura, this is Bonsu, and that is a confirm. Interesting, all are indigenous designs with very beautiful African and that's to say Ghanaian names. However, the tragedy here is all these designs you see here is not made in Ghana. These are imported from China. And this comes at a cheaper cost, which is just about 50 Ghana cedis, whereas the original GTP goes for 90 Ghana cedis. So for special occasions, people do come in for the GTP. However, for everyday wear and let's say the casual days, people tend to come in a lot for these imported fabrics. The tragedy here is the high demand for these imported fabrics is dealing a heavy blow on our local textile industries.
For decades, the flow of cheap and smuggled textiles from some of the world's largest producers, such as China and other Asian countries, has contributed to the gradual collapse of the once vibrant local textile industry. In the 1980s, Ghana could boast of over 15 companies. Unfortunately, only 2 of these companies are operational and struggling to even break even. GTP and Printex are struggling to stay afloat, whilst Akosombo Textiles Print recently laid off about 200 workers because it could not afford to pay salaries.
Counterfeiting of our designs and the smuggling of same into the marketplace. That is what has led to the collapse of virtually all the industries. We used to have over 15 textile companies in Ghana in the 80s and early 90s. As we speak, as you rightly said, we have left it barely 3 of us. The reason is that almost all the designs we produce, you'll find importers or our traders who would pick this, in fact, they pick the fast-selling designs, not all the designs, the very fast-selling ones, and they send it out. They are able to bring them, copy them, bring them in, smuggle them into the country. As a nation, we don't even have official records of importers of fabrics into the country, and that's a shame. What that tells you is that if we don't have official importers of fabrics, and yet imported fabrics account for over 70% of the entire share of the market, then you ask yourself, where is those 70% coming from?
In the 80s, the textiles companies employed about 25,000 of the labor force, accounting for 27% of total manufacturing sector employment. But today, less than 2,000 people are employed in the textiles factories. Sadly, the woes of the sector continues to deepen as many more could lose their jobs if government does not intervene. In the past, government introduced a number of interventions, but little impact has been achieved. An anti-piracy task force was established to clamp down on smuggled goods, but that failed. Textile dealers were forced to only import their goods through Takoradi Port, but that also failed. Yet, like another last-minute bravado act to salvage what remains of the local industry and discourage smuggling, the Ministry of Trade now plans to introduce a tax stamp for both locally manufactured and imported textiles, as well as ensure that all imported textiles come in through one entry point, the Tema Port.
I am reliably informed that last year, in 2017, only one container was officially cleared for tax in this country. Now, that is just clearly not possible. Why? Because we know over 70% of all the textiles that we buy in this country are not manufactured here. So how is it possible that one container is the only one? So one of the things we're going to do when we hopefully start middle of next month is we're going to go into the marketplace, and for free, and I repeat, the tax stamp is going to cost nothing. For free, we will do 2 different types of tax stamps. One for those that have been imported, different color code, and for those that have been manufactured here. So that whatever is sitting in your shop at that day, you know we will give you the tax stamp. Then we give you another 3 months to sell it. Thereafter, we are going to start to impose the law.
But the traders in the central district are kicking against it due to the high existing levies.
Look at us right now. Can I get 500 million or 1 billion and go to China and order and bring it through Tema? What? At least even if I bring about 20 pieces and sell, I can make a little profit and do little things that I'm doing to keep life going. But if you tell us we should take our things through Tema, but my brother, how much are we making? At times, even when we do the exchange rate is even bad now.
For others, the tax stamp is not a solution, but rather producing cheaper fabrics.
Since high target
Since the high target was introduced, a lot of young people are able to buy local fabrics because it's cheaper. Our products are too expensive. If we could make it cheaper, it would have been better. Why else will we go to Togo to import fabrics? If we had ATL and Printex all manufacturing at a cheaper rate, we wouldn't be importing.
I don't think I will go for high tax.
We eagerly look forward to the introduction of the tax stamp into the textile industry. And the reason we support it is simple. Now, the tax stamp is essentially it's an evidence to show that a particular product has paid the necessary taxes on it. So it's going to be very much like what you see on this label here. It's going to be put on the fabric. Why is this important? This is important because then anybody who goes to the market, whether a consumer or a tax officer or anybody who goes to the market, can tell which product has paid its taxes and which ones have not paid their taxes. And we believe that if you pay your taxes on the product, there's no way you can sell at the prices you are selling. And if people are selling at the right prices, we believe that gives us a fair playing ground as a business operate.
Now, here's a picture of the current duty payments on importations of textiles from outside the ECOWAS region. So, to give you a clear example, here's a document of an exporter who brought in goods worth a total of 117,830 Ghana cedis, 71 pesos. Total duty and levies paid summed up to 82,061 Ghana cedis, 5 pesos, amounting to 69.64% of the value of goods imported.
So I have here with me Owatridie, but this is GTP. The same design here, Owatridie, but this is high target from China. So to get an import of how the tax stamp is going to work. Now, when you are importing the fabric to Ghana from outside ECOWAS, it attracts a duty of close to 69.74%. That's approximately about 70% duty. So this GTP here sells at 90 Ghana cedis on the retail market, whereas this is at 50 Ghana cedis. Now, 90 Ghana cedis, they'll say, is quite high. It's on the high side, and this is 50 cedis. But when you add the duty of 70%, it brings the price close to 85 Ghana cedis. And that we call a level playing field. So that's how this is supposed to help the market.
Nonetheless, stakeholders say an effective implementation will require government to do a downward revision of the duties charged.
As we call upon the policymakers, the government, in fact the ministry, to really review the taxes that is paid on imported textiles. It is absolutely not acceptable. The duties are way too high. And indeed, it's something that government, if indeed government wants to make this policy succeed, then we need to get our ministry, the parliament, to review taxes on imported finished textile products, because it's way too high. Yet the import duty alone is 35%. Other duties, you add VAT, you add all the several, there are so many other elements built up into the tax component. When you put all together, it comes to close to 70%. And that is not acceptable.
Move to introduce the tax stamp may be viewed by some as a form of protectionism. But in this case, it's rather a fight against counterfeiting, which, according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, costs world trade about $500 billion, robbing states of revenues and rendering many jobless, just like the gloomy image of what remains of the local Ghanaian textile industry. Today, with over 2,000 jobs lost in the textile sector, many companies collapsed, and millions of revenues lost, the tax stamp may just be the savior. But the question that bends is, could this be the long-awaited antidote for the dying industry, or will it rather strengthen smugglers to sharpen their skills? For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
And interesting report by Sheila Tamaklo. So now you know why the local textile industry is actually suffering and what the tax stamp will actually do and when it's implemented. But to other story now, and high cost of borrowing is one key issue that makes businesses stay awake. Well, that's according to audit and accounting firm KPMG. This was contained in a pre-budget survey put together by the firm ahead of the 2019 budget reading schedule for November 2015. My colleague, Norvan Akwaheford, has been going through the report and now joins me for the highlights. Norvan, thanks so much for joining me on the marketplace.
Thank you very much.
So,
Sandra.
Interesting highlight. They've engaged in the market to see the indicators and what Ghanaians should expect in the 2019 budget. So, what are some of the findings in this budget?
Very interesting. Before we go into the findings, you need to understand what the macroeconomic performance has been from 2017 to 2018. You look at overall GDP growth rate, we had 7.9 in 2017, while the target for 2018 is a 6.8. You look at the non-oil GDP, 4.8, 2018, 5.4. You look at average inflation rate in 2017, it was 12.4, while we are looking at 9.8 for 2018. Now, what were the demographics as far as this particular survey was concerned? I want us to just look at the demographics, the kind of people they interviewed that they got. It was 40 businesses were their target. That is what they looked at. And these are business leaders. You're talking of MDs, CEOs, you're talking of chief financial officers, and they shared their ideas. The various sectors of the economy that they covered were agribusiness, banking, construction, that is manufacturing, insurance, media was represented over there, retail, technology, among others. And those were the things that they looked at. And they asked some simple questions. So one of the questions was, have the current tax incentives had a positive impact on your business? You also had a question like, which issues are of critical concern to taxpayers in this country? You can talk of, in your opinion, how complex are the Ghanaian tax laws? And what were some of the findings over there? Let's go to the very first one, which was, have the current tax incentives had a positive impact on your business? You had 42 of the respondents who felt that 100% tax deduction on research and development costs in the year of occurrence had no impact on their business. But 58% of the same respondents felt that 3 and 5 year carry forward of tax losses for businesses had significant positive impact on their business. And out of this 58%, 14% were from the banking sector. Let's quickly move on to which fiscal measures had the most impact on your business. And 40% of the respondents felt that they were significantly impacted by the reduction in the VAT NHIL input rate, which was taken out of the 17.5 VAT.
All right, Nova, before we go on, what are some of the impact of surveys such as this on the budget reading? Do we see that government really listens to what the people are saying before going into the next budget?
Yeah, what this do is that it helps the government to understand what the mood is, what people are thinking, and what are the expectations of business leaders, Ghanaians, as far as the budget that they need to put together is concerned.
Right.
As of last week, I think over the weekend, we know that Cabinet met and took a look at, the few finishing touches that they needed to put to the budget that they need to come. Remember, we have what we call the pre-budget engagements that takes place by the Ministry of Finance, headed by the Finance Minister himself, and they take views from people, what they expect, what were the challenges with some of the policies that were in the year under review, and see, do we have to change it? Do we need to bring something different? What do we need to do? And these are the things that they do. So with this, pre-budget survey that has been put together, it gives an idea that, remember, mid-year budget review, that's where we had the NHIL and the GET fund taken out of the 17.5 VAT. So now you have VAT, which is at 12.5, and then you had that becoming a straight levy. And so if you have business leaders telling you that it's had significant impact, because we had most of these sectors of the economy, they were saying that, especially manufacturing, talk of beverage manufacturers as well, talk of the telecommunication companies, they all said that, look, what we're going to do is to pass on the cost to the final consumer. I think that the finance ministry have been watching, and this should help them make a decision. Very interesting. Can we take a look at some of the other findings that KPMG actually put together? Okay, so now a quick one as well. If you feedback on impact of the fiscal measures, some of the things that people said was that the 3% VAT flat rate has directly increased our cost. All manufacturing companies should be exempted. These are some of the things that they are saying. Now, withholding tax is beginning to affect our cash flow as our clients withhold the payment of VAT through the issuance of the VAT relief purchase orders. And so these are some of the things that they've been saying. Tax amnesty has helped regularize our tax status, and then the removal of the special import levy will give us some breather. So these are some of the things that people are saying, that the business leaders themselves. All right, Norvan, so Joy Business is putting up a lot of programs together ahead of the 2019 budget. And mind you, whenever we have the budget, a lot of people feel detached from the budget because they feel it's one bulky book and the figures they don't really understand. So what do we actually seek to do for this 2019 budget so that the ordinary Ghanaian actually understands the budget and then it actually reflects in their pockets? Okay, so what we want to do is to break it down for people to understand clearly what is in the budget, what it is that they need to understand. So that is what is going to be happening from Monday until Thursday when the budget is read. And even after the budget, you just need to understand. We have hashtag Your Budget 2019. Just follow it. You have sent us your questions. You have all the answers. And across all the platforms here at Multimedia, we will be explaining to you the exact details of the budget. Grateful for your time, Norvan Aqua Hayford, for the breakdown of that survey by KPMG. But that's how we wrap up today on the Marketplace. Thanks so much for watching, and for more news, do log on to myjoyland.com/business for more business updates. My name is Sandra Esinamatin. Have a great afternoon.